Despite complex pandemic-induced uncertainties nobody of us has experienced before, I will have a look at potential future demand, even if, admittedly, I'm not very optimistic what to expect soon. Pandemic meant more than 2 lost years for the world fiber industry. This chart shows the long-term moving average annual growth rate of demand for fibers and yarns, plus on slightly higher level with spunlates included, simply to have the full picture. I know spunlates, nonwovens do not use yarns or fibers, but polymers. And by skipping a production stage, directly deliver a finished fabric. I just added this volume as it has become increasingly relevant with more than 1 kg per capita textile demand by now. Quintessence is 1. Steadily accelerating dynamics visible at the beginning of the century as consequence of shifting investments to benefit from the abolishment of textile and apparel quotas from January 2005. And 2, the recent decade before pandemic witnessed rather stagnant dynamics, while demographic development continued to slow. Simultaneous crisis of supply and demand not only posed a life-threatening burden for the entire world. The pandemic will have a long-term impact, economic impact. Economic activity is anything else but normalized despite heavy policy support. Freight costs at elevated level due to container shortage and deficit in semiconductor supply for global automotive industry are just 2 examples that a smooth material flow is still missing. Furthermore, economic uncertainties like inflationary pressure and sovereign debt levels in many regions must not be neglected. Modest demand growth this year seems possible, despite changing consumption patterns with expenditures for travel and entertainment gaining weight, and uncertainties like spread of COVID-19 variants, vaccine rollout, and willingness for vaccination making any forecast highly speculative. In a nutshell, fiber industry will lose more than 2 years, different to the 1-year loss during financial crisis in 2008-9, where we have seen a rapid V-shaped recovery. In the interest of time, I will not address every single sector. Expectation is a return to the growth path where we used to be before COVID-19 from next year onward, but at different speeds. I'm most reserved for demand recovery from automotive and aircraft industries, as global vehicle production already began to decline in 2018, down another 16% last year, and commercial aircraft deliveries plummeting more than 40% to a 15-year low. It appears that the car industry firstly needs to overcome a structural crisis that got worse last year with COVID-related falling disposable incomes and consumers increasing wait-and-see attitude on emissions-free mobility. In general, companies heavily invested in remote work tools, which may lead to reduced traffic between home and office, as well as business traveling and using digital tools instead that we all got familiar with by now. Speaking at a sustainable fashion forum, I should also, of course, touch the sustainability issue, as it is increasingly gaining importance. We need to act rather sooner than later, and textile industry as a growth model offers plenty of options. We all know fashion industry in particular has been dubbed as one of the most wasteful industries on earth. Estimated production losses account for more than 10 billion kilograms on annual basis from waste along the entire value chain for different processing technologies at various degrees. Ellen MacArthur Foundation even estimated production losses of 12%, which would translate into almost 15 billion kg losses just for last year. In addition, we have microfiber leaking during use and washing. The vast majority finally ends up at landfill and is being incinerated. And less than 1% of textiles are being recycled in a closed-loop system. We can do better than that. Yes, we can, certainly. There are many, many examples moving into the right direction. Thankfully, China, the textile powerhouse, has been promoting a circular economy since 2005 already, and making progress in recycled fiber processing, expansion of sustainable fibers, and in energy and material consumption. Secondly, US rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement will give stimulus and more attention toward environmental issues, with probably a greater support for decarbonization, shift to renewables, and efforts for circular economy. Rebuilding relationships by the Biden administration with trade partners and coordinated use of investments and tariff and trade policy may also promote decarbonization in major supplying countries. Thirdly, EU single-use plastic ban from next month is another strong signal and the aim of European Union to become a forerunner in the global fight against marine litter and plastic pollution. To be honest, there are several challenges in textile recycling, and I'm pleased that my dear friend Dr. Sascha Schriever from Institut für Textiltechnik, ITA, of RWTH Aachen University, one of the most renowned textile research institutes worldwide, provided me some actual objects of research and corresponding projects. I will come to this later. Investments are noticeable not only in sustainable fiber expansions, but also in sustainable manufacturing to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and recycling capacity additions for pre- and post-consumer waste. Very latest announcement, for example, in this regard came in early June with Lenzing and Swedish Södra, a world-class producer of pulp, signing a cooperation agreement to join forces for post-consumer textile recycling with the goal to process 25,000 tons annually of textile waste by 2025. In the interest of time, I will later just focus on fiber investments. First approach targets fast fashion industry that has become popular, although not compatible with sustainability requirements. Projects include recycling of polyester, polyamide, and acrylic fiber waste. The industry research group Polymer Recycling develops concepts for a circular economy and pursues the goal to recycle 100% of all textile waste. A consortium of companies along the textile chain, together with ITA, is conducting application and industrial production-oriented basic research. Another difficulty for recycling is material diversity. With a piece of garment consisting of different fibers, a mixture of blended spun yarns, and multi-layer materials. Single origin material streams via sorting and separation technologies have to be provided to close the loop with material recycling approaches. Rope and carpet design are being researched, like also dissolving on demand, as well as selective dissolving, which sounds quite exciting. Logistics and sorting still offer a range of challenges, but a project targeting fluorescent markers in yarns may facilitate sorting and tracking. All projects help to gradually overcome existing challenges of recycling, but ultimately the price difference from recycled to virgin materials play the decisive role. However, next to technological and economic issues, a sustainable mindset of the entire society will be needed to achieve a textile circular economy goal. Lyocell, a fiber I just love for its wearing comfort, is subject to very strong investments. Fibers produced in a closed-loop system, recovering and reusing used solvents, significantly minimize the environmental impact of production. Austrian Lenzing started commercial production in the 1990s already. Lenzing clearly leads the industry and is in the process of constructing a new plant in Thailand with annual capacity of 100,000 tons of lyocell fibers from its first production line, scheduled to come on stream end of this year, and up to 3 additional lines would be possible on this site. The other 2 large-scale manufacturers, viscose manufacturers, Birla and Suttery, both have lyocell capacity at their disposal by now. Suttery, mid-March this year, announced planning to expand its lyocell production in China to an annual capacity of up to 500,000 tons by 2025. Further investments in Turkey and essentially China from smaller producers are also in the pipeline. There are a number of bio-based fibers such as nylon, polyester or PTT, But in terms of market size and dynamics, it seems best to focus on PLA. My friends at Nova Institute in Germany recommended me to concentrate on PLA and provided the following information. Just to update you, a quick word on Nova Institute before. They focus on the transition of the chemical and material industry to renewable carbon and offer unique support for the transition of businesses into a climate-neutral future. Back to PLA, a dedicated, fully bio-based polymer. So, what is the meaning of dedicated? Well, dedicated bio-based chemicals or polymers are materials which are produced commercially via a dedicated pathway and do not have an identical fossil-based counterpart. As such, they can be used to produce products that cannot be obtained through traditional chemical reactions. Their products may offer unique and superior properties that are unattainable with fossil-based alternatives. PLA capacity last year expanded by roughly 30%, or nearly 100,000 tons, due to investments in Chinese industry to reach a global level of 400,000 tons right now. About 40% additional capacity is scheduled to come on stream by 2025. 2 Chinese projects will add another 50,000 tons. A 15,000 tons increase is expected for the United States, and Total Corbion is planning to install a 100,000 tons line in France that is planned to be operational in 2024. Finally, I would like to summarize my speech with 4 key findings. Number 1, textile chain has been severely affected by the pandemic, with more than 2 lost years for the fiber industry and consequentially all up and downstream operations as well. After the sudden collapse of last year's spring and summer collection, with most retailers' priority to overcome excess apparel inventory challenges. Putting unsold clothes back into the store this year goes along with lower than normal order volumes for new pieces of garment, which calls for decoupled growth rates of global economy and apparel manufacturing. Number 2, returning to a new normal at retail stage after overcoming pandemic will be on lower level for the time being, with still uncertainties holding up and the unknown effect of changed consumption patterns. Number 3, growing awareness for the need of sustainability is expected to stimulate investments for sustainable fibers, in particular for lyocell and PLA fibers. Number 4, investments will further address sustainable manufacturing to lower the environmental impact of production, and recycling for pre- and post-consumer waste will steadily gain in importance.